Hi everyone, I do apologize. This video is going to be basically an audio only with only a few photos. My editing software wasn't cooperating with me tonight, and after 2 hours of trying to get it to work, I decided just to upload the audio along with just a couple photos for this video. So I hope you'll still listen and enjoy, and as always, thanks for subscribing. I'm 35 years old, male, and live in Wisconsin. I've been online for the better part of 20 years. I'm an avid Facebook gamer, meaning I play all the war, fantasy, and sci-fi games offered through Facebook. I first met Lisa through one of the gaming pages. There's a chat box where you can send messages, and her and I were playing on a team together in a sci-fi fantasy game. After our mission, we messaged each other. She messaged me saying I played very well and asked about me, where I live, where I was from, what I do for a living, etc. I admit I was a little taken back by her questions. Most gamers are male, and hardly any of them chat after playing a mission with you on our favorite gaming forums. Lisa said she checked out my profile, thought I was cute, and she asked me if I was single. I've been single for a very long time, partly due to my disability. I won't go into great detail, but I am disabled with a disease that, over time, will leave me unable to care for myself in the future. For now, though, I game online and enjoy my days being able to have the mobility to do so. I live alone, but have a caregiver who comes by twice a week to check on me, take me shopping if I feel up to going, and for the time being, I enjoy being able to live independently for the most part. Lisa started chatting with me via Facebook Messenger. She told me she was a nurse who worked for the World Health Organization, or WHO, and traveled often out of the country. I'm always very upfront with people, so I told her about my medical conditions. She didn't say much to it and kept telling me how handsome I was and how she'd been single for 3 years now and that her ex was abusive, so she left the relationship and joined the World Health Organization to travel and help the sick abroad. I was surprised she didn't say much about my medical condition and only talked further about her work in Ghana, where she was at the moment. She said she was from Miami, Florida, but working in Ghana on a contract for 2 months before she would return home. Her profile had tons of photos, this beautiful blonde-haired woman, even photos of herself treating sick kids in Africa, and photos of her on the beach. We talked for hours online that night, right up until 4 in the morning. I went to bed feeling so happy to have met this beautiful and kind nurse online who wanted to chat with me, and didn't see my disability as a problem. As the weeks went on, we talked more. She asked me what I did for work, and I again explained to her that I'm disabled, so I live on a disability check every month. I live on a fixed income in a low housing apartment complex and have help from the state for my caregiver. So basically, I live check to check, month to month, and while I'm not wealthy, I get by and I always have a few extra dollars to save at the end of the month if I'm very careful. We started talking more and more. She told me she was helping to vaccinate children in Ghana in remote villages. We continued playing our games online, our sci-fi fantasy games, during the evening, and then spending all night chatting. She asked me for my phone number, so I gave it to her, and we started texting. She never called me, though. She texted me from a Miami phone number, and we downloaded WhatsApp. She said she couldn't voice or video call because it used data on her phone, and it cost too much, but she promised to call me when she got home to Miami, and maybe after that we could meet after she got settled back in the States. So, for the next few weeks, we texted and did some game playing online. Then, one night she video called me. I was shocked. I quickly answered, and the video was grainy and blurry. But it was, I thought, the same woman in the photo, but she was topless. The video lasted about 1 minute, and then she hung up saying the connection was bad. I was shocked. She said she loved me and wanted to show me her body. We texted more, and then I asked her if she wanted to really get into a relationship with me. She said yes, and that I made her very happy. A few more days went by and I was totally crazy about this woman. As the weeks went by and got closer to the time she would be flying home to Miami, I thought about flying down to meet her, but with my medical issues, it would be too hard on me to do so. Lisa said she would come and see me in a few months or weeks, depending on when she got settled. I was nervous and excited for us to finally meet. Then, the week before she was set to leave Ghana, I also must add, she sent me a copy of her flight info from Ghana to Miami, complete with her name on the flight ticket. She texted me one night upset. She said that one of the doctors at the WHO group she was in became jealous of her having a boyfriend and beat her. I was so angry and upset, I felt helpless. She said he beat her and tore up her passport and ticket and took her credit cards. Lisa said he was jealous and wanted her to himself and didn't want her to leave Ghana. I was angry and scared for her. Lisa said that she feared for her life and tried to run away but had no money to get out of there. I told her to contact the director of the World Health Organization. Let them know what happened so they can move you out, take you to the embassy. She said that she couldn't do that because this doctor was a very highly respected member of the WHO and they wouldn't believe her being only just a nurse. She then asked me if I could send money to a friend of hers so she could pay for a hotel and get a new ticket and get to the embassy where she could explain and get home as they would have a copy of her passport on record. I asked her how much she needed and she said $3,500. It was a lot of money for me, but I knew that over the years I put a little in savings every month and I had nearly that, but not quite. I told her I would try my best to get the money. She told me via text that she loved me so much and wanted to start a life with me in Wisconsin, and she would be my carer. For me, that's all I needed to hear. I took one of my gaming systems and had my neighbor drive me to a pawn shop. I pawned it along with a bunch of my games and was able to come up with all of the money, including what I took out of my savings. She then texted me after I told her that I had the money, and she said to go to Western Union and send it in two payments to her medical friend who would ensure that she got the money because she couldn't pick it up herself without her ID. I asked my neighbor to drop me off at the store and pick me up in half an hour. I then went and sent the money via Western Union to the name Lisa gave me. It was the name of a man in Tamale, Ghana. The payments went through, and when I returned home, I waited for Lisa to let me know she got the money okay and was safe. In my head, I kept thinking, this woman is going to get beat up or raped or something bad by this evil doctor. I waited late into the night but heard nothing from Lisa. I was sick with worry. I checked my WhatsApp texting app, which is where we always texted each other, but I got no reply. I tried calling her via the app and nothing. One day turned into several, and I went into Lisa's Facebook and she'd not been on. When we play games online, her stats bar shows up, with what she's played and where she's been and her scores. I sent her countless messages via Facebook and WhatsApp with no return reply. I then tried to find the man who I sent money to, the doctor friend who was going to help her get out of that situation. I found him by his full name and location. He was the only one in Tamale, Ghana. Only he wasn't a medical doctor or assistant or even in the medical field. He had tons of photos on his profile with money, hustling, and scam stuff. In his About section, he was in groups like the Wire Fast Money Boys and the Hustlers Club. He was a scammer. In his albums, he had photos of him licking, touching, and throwing money and jewelry around. I went to Lisa's profile next and found she was friends with this person. I decided to Google her photos and found out they were stolen from a woman who worked at the WHO or World Health Organization, but her name wasn't Lisa. She was a married doctor who had done extensive work in third world countries, a married doctor with two kids. I later found out this woman's photos were stolen and used by many scammers. I'd been scammed. Lisa vanished off my WhatsApp after I messaged her a photo of the scammer and told her she was a fake, or that he, whatever, blocked me. I was a fool to believe this person was real and truly wanted me. A lesson learned. Don't fall for it. And always do your homework first. It can save you a lot of cash and heartbreak. Oh, and the video she played me of the topless woman? It was a stolen clip from a porno video. Thanks for letting me share. I met this woman named Sharon on Match.com in 2016. I'd been divorced for a couple of years and decided to put myself out there to the dating world. Sharon messaged me first, saying she found my profile interesting. I, at the time, was 45 years old and living in Georgia. Sharon said she lived in California and was a widow. She said her husband died 10 years prior and she had a 15-year-old son. She said she worked in the medical field as a technician. I worked in real estate at the time. She asked me if I had Google Hangouts, as the site, while free, had limitations on messages that could be sent per day if you had a basic account, which we both had. I told her I'd never used Hangouts, but I agreed to download the app to my phone. I did so and we began texting there. She told me about her life and how it was rough to be a single mother and at times things were hard since her husband had died. I understood. My ex and I had a daughter who she and I shared custody of. She at the time was 12 years old and going through her difficult, what I call preteen bratty years, testing our parenting skills since the divorce. My ex-wife and I had a strained relationship, but kept things going and kept it light while my daughter was there. We had joint custody, and I got my daughter every other weekend. So between work and her staying the weekends, my life was very busy. I explained to Sharon how my ex and I share custody, and she said that was nice that I was able to be with my daughter. We started talking more and more as time went on. I tried several times to video call her, but she said her phone was an old flip phone, and she couldn't afford a new one. She said her son had many books and things he needed for school, so she put his needs first. I could admire that in this woman. While the distance was not something I was crazy about, I found myself talking more and more to her. One night, Sharon called me. I can confirm she was female, but had an accent that I couldn't place. When I asked her about it, she said that her father was from the Virgin Islands, and they often visited there as a child, so she picked up a bit of a Caribbean accent. She then would say that she was very tired and go to bed if I questioned her about her family. Now that I think about it, it was very odd, but back during that time, we talked and I just didn't question any of it. She talked very softly, and often I would hear what sounded like a man in the background, but she always said it was her TV. Or there would be dogs barking when it was the middle of the night if she said she was from where she said she was from. I would ask her, why are dogs barking? And if someone was out around her home. And she would say, no, everything's fine. Dogs bark. It's normal. I would kind of argue with her and tell her dogs don't bark in the middle of the night unless something's wrong or someone's outside, telling her to check. She would always say it's nothing and change the subject or say she needed to go to bed. As time went on, we talked more and more, mostly on text. She would tell me her son needed books for school and other things, and as time continued, I felt bad for her struggling like this. Since her husband died, it's been difficult. She, one night, asked me if I would be able to buy her an iTunes card for her phone as she said her data was running out. I wasn't sure how they worked. I never had bought one before, but being the man I am, I bought her a $100 iTunes card. Our relationship continued, and she and I grew closer. We planned to meet over the summer if things progressed further. It was now December, nearing Christmas time. Sharon often told me she loved me and wanted to be with me. When I asked her what she was getting her son for Christmas, she told me nothing, as she couldn't afford to. She then asked me if I would get her another iTunes card to keep her phone going. Of course, I bought her one and gave her the information on the card. Then, about a week before Christmas, she messaged me saying she was crying. That she was so sad she couldn't buy her son anything for Christmas. She then told me that they had no food, and she asked me for $500 to borrow to help pay for Christmas and some food. I felt horrible for her, and while I'm not wealthy, I do well in my work, and I told her I'd be glad to. I told her I can wire it to her, Sharon Jones, right away. She then went offline and never responded to my messages that night. I thought maybe her pride got in the way and she didn't want the help after all. The next afternoon, she messaged me, then rang me. She spoke softly and told me that she had been robbed on her way to work at a traffic light. She said a man came to her window with a knife and demanded her purse, and she gave it to him. In her purse was, of course, her ID, credit cards, personal information. She then asked me if I'd be willing to borrow her $700 until she can get everything taken care of and also be able to buy food and Christmas for her and her son. I agreed right away, but of course, there was an issue. She couldn't pick up the money as her ID was stolen, but she said her friend could pick it up. I understood, and she gave me her friend's name. It was some woman who lived in the same area as her, or so she said. Fast forward a few hours, and Sharon said she had the money and even took photos of all the food she bought for her and her son. I later found out the photos were stolen from a coupon buying website. Time went on, and Christmas came and went. During this time, I also bought her a couple of iTunes cards. I became frustrated, though, as she wouldn't video chat with me. She said again she had a flip phone and her computer was old. I told her I would buy her a new phone if we could video chat. She agreed, and I looked online for a cheap smartphone. $100 one, nothing special. Sharon then sent me links to new iPhones and picked a few she liked. Most were over $1,000. I told her a cheap smartphone would work just fine for video call or a $10 webcam she could hook up to her computer. She said yes, and I asked her for her address so I could mail her a webcam. She then told me it would be easier if I bought an Amazon gift card so she could pick out a webcam or smartphone as she knew the model of her computer and what she needed. I agreed. I bought her a $100 Amazon gift card. This went on for a few more months. The camera was on back order. She said she ordered it. I would give her iTunes cards here and there. When I asked about the money she owed, she said she would bring it to me when we meet. We planned out meeting in June. It was now April, and I asked her about her flight. She told me she's trying to save money to fly out to see me. Then she asked me if I would be willing to pay for the flight, and then she can bring me the money she owes me, and by June she would have the money to also pay for the flight and pay me back. I was reluctant, but told her I would book the flight in her name and her city to mine and give her the ticket details, and then she could check in at the airport and get her boarding pass when the time came. She suddenly went offline for 3 days and I didn't hear from her. I felt something was wrong, but I didn't think scammer. I thought maybe she was afraid to meet me or had cold feet, or maybe she was secretly married. I wasn't sure. As often as she would just log offline whenever she wasn't interested in hearing a suggestion or thing that I suggest that she should do. I messaged, called, and texted her day after day with no response. I was about to give up and take my hurt pride and move on when her son sent me an email. He said his mother had been in a terrible car accident and that he was beside her in the hospital. I was in a panic and I asked him what hospital. He wouldn't say, but he gave me the phone number to this hospital. I called it and ended up speaking to a doctor who said he was treating her. He said my name was listed on her emergency contact and they'd been trying to get in touch with me. Although I had no calls from any hospital or even this number or any missed unknown numbers. He said she was hit by a drunk driver and suffered kidney damage and a broken leg and a head injury. He said they needed to do emergency surgery to try and save her life. He also said that she had no insurance to cover the cost. I was a bit alarmed by this, as she told me she worked in the medical field as a tech, and they always have insurance. If anything, they have good health insurance. This went back and forth with this doctor who honestly sounded foreign, but I couldn't place his accent. Thinking and looking back now, it was similar to Sharon's. I told him that you could do the surgery, but bill her later, or bill some kind of insurance, but he insisted he needed a down payment before the life-saving procedure. Her so-called son then got on the phone with me, calling me dad, and said his mother would die without the surgery. I told her son that I wouldn't allow that to happen, and asked to be able to speak to the doctor again. The doctor then asked me if I'd be able to secure a payment or credit card to secure the money for the procedure. This all happened so quickly. I knew in my heart something was wrong, but I felt this pain in my heart knowing that if she was in an accident, she needed me. She needed my help. I gave this doctor my credit card information. He said he would secure the surgery suite, then update me on her condition soon. Hours went by and nothing, then days. I googled the hospitals in her area, but they had no record of her being there. I called every single one. When I called the number back that I had spoken to the doctor on, it went to a Google voicemail recording. I started to piece things together. I then got a text alert on my phone that my credit card had over $3,000 in suspicious charges. I phoned them right away and found out someone had used my card online to buy iTunes, Amazon, and various gift cards. When I tried to message Sharon on Hangouts, email her son, and call the so-called doctor, everything had been removed from my app. They were gone. They blocked me. I started digging around. I found out Sharon was not real at all as far as her picture. It was stolen from a reality TV star on a cable network show. The son was fake, and the photos of him were stolen from a famous kid who skateboards on YouTube. Looking back now, I know it was all a scam. I searched for the woman online who I wired the money to. I made contact with her, and she told me she had no idea who Sharon was, but that her online boyfriend, who was in the army, told her that I was going to be sending her money for his leave and that I was a commander in the military. So, whoever this woman scammer was, she was using me to send money to another person she was talking to with other profiles. The lady who I sent money to told me her online boyfriend said he was peacekeeping in Nigeria, and she gave me his phone number in Nigeria. When I searched the number online, I came across a man and his wife on Facebook. Both were holding iTunes cards and cash they had gotten from victims, I imagine. And they were in a few groups listed on their Facebook page that were scam associated, like the Yahoo Boys. I learned a hard lesson and predict the man and his wife both scammed together as a team, and I was voice chatting with the wife. Lesson learned, don't fall victim and demand the person video chat with you as suggested by many anti-scam pages, and make them write your name down on paper while you watch on video. Something other than just trusting a stranger's words. Thank you for letting me share. And we'd like to thank both of these gentlemen who shared their stories. We really appreciate it. So often we get this notion that only women get scammed, and it's not true. There are just as many male victims of romance and online scams. So thanks for sharing. If you would like to share your story, you can find us on Facebook under Scamming Scammers Action. You can submit your story, give us permission to narrate it, and we will put it in our next video. And again, if you need help, you can find us on Facebook under Scamming Scammers Action. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and as always, keep the money to yourself. Don't give it to the scammers. We'll see you next time. Bye.